am joined by John Keats and Paul Jones.
It's too early for her.
It is too early. Yeah. How are we, guys? Are we good?
Yeah, very good.
You've
all well.
just been in the middle of doing Cavern things, and have you hoofed it over here, or have you,
John's
I've
just got back off his holidays.
Got back off the beach, hence the big red face.
Can we just get that shot on that camera, John, of your face?
I don't know.
Can we get that lovely
Sure,
tan.
be a big close up
There you
there.
go.
Yeah.
Look at that. Beautiful.
That was the typical last day in the pool. You're thinking we've got 3 more hours before we get picked up, and then you get burnt. No, we're always busy at the Cavern, but sort of end of September now, beginning of October. We've just finished the big Beatles festival.
Yes, yeah.
Which, I mean, as a company, which we'll get into about all the different things that we do, it's non-stop.
Yes.
But then we've done Beatleweek for like 40 years now, which is this huge.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
It is, and it luckily it gets bigger and bigger every year. But it's 40 years. I mean, it's a week-long festival, but it takes a year to organise it.
Yeah,
and sell
I can
it,
imagine.
promote it.
How many bands are there roughly on?
We always
across
say
the
we
week?
bring 70 bands and artists from about 20, 30 different countries.
That is amazing. That's unbelievable. And it's who's jointly you delegate, or is it just you give it all to Paul to do? Or?
It's a team thing, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, we've always been involved. Well, we'll probably get into it in a bit, but when I started working at the company, I took over the sort of the booking of the bands and liaising with all the bands and that side of it for about 4 years doing the festival. Yeah. John's played it for about 80 years, is it?
83 years.
83 years you've been gigging
43.
it.
No, I played Beatleweek as a performer back in the early 90s. So I've always done Beatleweek, and I got involved with the company 15 years ago. I'd say sort of I oversee the team. But whereas, I mean, Paul doesn't do booking the bands anymore. One of the other guys, Clark, does that. Paul's moved into, it's all technical, that's all the tech side of things. I tend to produce the bigger shows because we take, it's centred at the Cavern, 3 stages in the club and the pub. But then we take over the city. We've got like shows of the Philharmonic Hall. So between the team, we do it, and it's a small team, really.
Well, I was going to, you'll probably find the threads of this by the end of this podcast that you go, actually, it's a really small, quite a family-knit team that somehow, and we still don't really know how we do it, sometimes we just about do it, but deliver whatever it is that we're delivering.
Nice,
Yeah, it's quite a small hub of people that really put everything together.
Yeah.
So,
but at the helm of it is Bill, who's one of the main owners, the managing director. Bill Heckle. I mean, he started the festival, really.
Right.
So he's still there as I can call him many things, but we'll call him the general. we'll keep it clear.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but within the small team, it's experience. We know what we're doing, and I think every year, it's like anything in this business. Standards in this business, expectations in the business, are getting higher all the time.
Yeah,
production
of course.
values. So I think we just every year you build on that. But at the heart of it, I think this is important. We bring all these bands over, but we bring fans over from 40 odd countries.
Yeah.
And for those people who travel, whether it be from the UK and all the other countries, it's a responsibility. It's their holiday. And that's the thing.
Of course.
We're in tourism as well. That's a major.
So you're
part
you're providing a good time for them as well. Yeah, you're looking after them.
We're not quite a rep on an 18 to 21 Ibiza holiday, but it's.
Really? You kidding?
Yeah. I've never used that analogy before, but we are. That at the heart of it, you're responsible for their holiday. They've decided to spend money and come to Liverpool, and a lot of them are repeat customers. And a lot of them this year, our new numbers were higher than ever, which is great and important because, the Beatles as a brand has to,
of course,
you've got to look at the demographics and stuff. But
you also find yourself an ambassador for the city as well. We were just talking the other day. This year, so this Beatleweek we've just done, nearly 50% of our customers that came over were first timers.
Oh wow!
Which, when you think after 30 odd years it's been running, that's still quite impressive. But a lot of those people had never been to the city before.
Wow.
So it's not just you got to put on the events and make sure everyone has a good time and all. It's how do we show off the city in the best light?
Definitely.
So that will come back to the planning stages when we were discussing what new venues is there. Is there anything good in the city opening? can we incorporate that? Let's work with them. Can we try and show off the best of Liverpool that we get? It's not just about the Cavern Beatleweek.
It's quite an unusual festival. In that we do go out across the city to showcase. It's not just in a one confined area. But it is. We're very linked. We're linked with the city anyway. We do a lot of work with the city.
It's such an iconic place, and like, as you were saying, like I bump into people all the time who, like, even residents of Liverpool who are saying, like, Cavern's the favourite venue. It's an iconic venue. When's the next shows at the Cavern? And like, it's just got such a central hub of activity around it and history around it, and
it's weird, but there's still a lot of local people who've never even
been
put foot in it, which I understand that, because I think locally there's still. I think now we've moved on a lot as a city in terms of what tourism is, and certainly what Beatles tourism and what did the Beatles ever do for Liverpool? Because there is a real industry, but there's still a lot of people who go, at the Cavern, or Matthews, it's just a tourist place, which is important really for us to change that perspective as well.
Definitely.
Which I think when we, because it's easy for people locally to say, it's just a Beatle bar.
It's just a bar.
They just play the Beatles, and if we did do that, then it'd just be a Beatles museum. Which,
of course.
If you go there, it's not with all the eclectic music offering that we put in there.
But I think in the last year or so, I think we've had talking about locals in the city.
Yeah,
people like Jamie Webster's been in there.
Of course,
Clean Cut Kid. Red Rum Club, all these local acts that are bringing in the local market too, and they're like, the Cavern, that's a good night out there.
You do see that, and a lot of the bigger names like the Paolo Nuttinis, we've had a great. We'll get into this, I'm sure, about how we get these artists and stuff. But when you get those bigger artists doing like an Inter 300 cap gig in the back room, it's a different crowd to our tourist.
Totally.
So it's great because a lot of those people, as we say, going back to how we got to change perspective, they haven't been in the Cavern before, and it's a younger crowd quite often.
Yeah, interesting.
And they get more than a view of actually, this is quite a cool place.
This is a cool place to be.
This is actually,
What is the capacity of the Cavern? What is it?
We've got two stages.
So you got
The front stage is about 250.
Yeah.
And the backstage, the Cavern Live Lounge. The front stage is obviously the iconic arch stage. 320.
Yeah.
320, 350.
Yeah. So it's a perfect size, isn't it, for like artists who want to test the material, or, if they're just putting in, tour dates that are like exclusive dates or something like that.
It's quite often tied in with an album launch.
Yeah.
It's like you go back to the olden days. That's not the olden days. It might be something that we do with like Radio City, and I'll give you exact examples. Like Jessie J doing something at the Cavern through Radio City because it was part of promo. They were maybe doing other stuff with Bauer Media.
Yeah,
so it all becomes part of that. Whatever way you look at it, it's promo.
Yeah, of course.
That's the main reason that we get a lot the bigger artists.
You got like BBC Introducing there, obviously taking a
BBC Introducing is it's another example of trying to change perspective of the Cavern. And we got involved with Dave Monks was the connection really. We knew Dave anyway.
Dave's great.
He's a good friend of ours, and we'd use Dave a lot when we used to do the Matthew Street Festival, which I'm sure we can get into as well, because we started that as a company.
Right.
And there was always one contemporary Liverpool music stage. And certainly for the last few years, Dave would curate that stage and present the stage.
Right.
So when we were looking at, we've got to, we want to, and we've got to do more original music in the back room, which we've always done that, but it wasn't always done correctly.
Right.
And I'll get into that because I'll go on my rant.
Yeah, let's get into it.
But when we decided, okay, we've got to do it, we want to do it, but we've got to do it with the right partners. So we approached Dave and said, do you fancy putting on a monthly night under the BBC Introducing banner? Which I think we started that maybe 10 years ago. We should look at it. We probably missed this big 10. We tend to do it. It was last week. We should have done a big thing. But it's probably at least 10 years we've been doing this. And that was fundamental in changing perspectives, because shall I get into my
Yeah,
rant a little
absolutely.
bit?
Yeah.
It used to be, I got involved with the Cavern 15 years ago. And at the time, Liverpool was a very different city 15 years ago. It was just after Capital of Culture. So we'd seen all the investments that come in, and we'd had Liverpool was such a successful year, 2008, and introduced this amazing city to a new audience. And then the trick was then obviously, we've got to build on that.
Yeah.
But none of us quite knew what that legacy was going to look like. But I joined, just after Capital Culture. I'd known the owners for many years.
Forever, yeah.
And we'd spoken a few times about me getting involved from what I was doing. And I joined them in 2009. And it was apparent then that the city was changing.
Right.
People were coming back. This was building. It wasn't just a one-off. And collectively, it was like, what can we do? And we knew the product that we knew what we wanted the Cavern to look like in terms of live music and a tourist, that combination between being a major tourist attraction, but also a relevant live music venue.
Right.
Which proudly is, that is our claim now. That is
Definitely,
what it is.
Yeah.
But at the time, there was still a lot of downtime in the club, and midweek there was a lot of availability in the back room, and we've been working with different promoters and local promoters, national promoters for original music, but it wasn't working.
Right.
And it was verging on pay to play, which we could open a whole discussion about the musicians
relevance
being paid.
of course, yeah.
And I don't quite know where I sit totally on it, but we were working. I'll give you an example. We'd have a promoter on, and they'd book in 3 or 4 bands on a Wednesday night, Thursday night in the Cavern. One from Glasgow, one from Devon, one from Liverpool.
Yeah.
And each one would say, well, we'll bring a coach load, and they'd sell tickets, and they'll get a percentage of tickets. They'll sell a load of tickets, and of course the Glasgow band pulls out, and then the Devon bands end up turning up in a minibus. It wasn't working, and this one time where people were going to play the Cavern Club, which should be special, and this was my thing. We've got to make it special again. It wasn't working for us as a business because there was nights there where people were traveling for original music and they weren't well attended.
Yeah, of course.
It's not good for the artists because it's there one time. We played the Cavern.
We played the Cavern. There's no one there. Yeah, definitely.
So we quickly, but slowly, but quite quickly. Tried to change that perspective and got rid of a lot of the promoters we were using, and that's when we decided that we'd put the music on, but we'd do it in conjunction with the right people.
Right.
And that's pretty much where Dave came in, and that was the starting point. And initially we weren't putting as much original music on, but at least when those 3 bands were coming to play, they were playing to a packed house.
Yeah. It felt important.
And it felt important.
Yeah.
At the same time, Paul comes into the mix. We start improving the whole venue technically, endorsements with companies, which, Paul can pick up on this about it's as a small venue, which we're still a grassroots music venue, whatever way you look at it.
Yeah.
And again, we can get into that because during the COVID stuff, we were very involved
doing live streams and things.
We were also like a bit of a voice. We had to find ourselves being a voice for grassroots music venue as well.
But even if we fast forward to nowadays, you can imagine either the phone's ringing or the emails are coming in every single day of somebody. You never know who they are on the other side of the email or the phone, but they're always, I've got a band, we're about to break. Can we play the Cavern? Can we play the Cavern? I've got an original band. You don't know whether that's a band in a garage down the road that just formed last week or someone on the verge of a number one, at this point. But those come in every single day to the point where you can't seriously consider everyone and reply to everyone. So doing things like the Dave Muggs night, or we have original music in the pub every Monday now, which again is just a bit of an overspill of that wanting to keep original music there, but also accessible to everyone. Yeah. Because the reality is the Dave Monk shows and people like that, in order to get that room busy, Dave's not just going to pick, somebody who's just from the band last week.
Anybody, yeah.
His pulse, his fingers on the pulse in the area, on the music, what's happening. So he's bringing them in. But if there is a kid in 20 minutes down the road in Liverpool who's just wrote his first song on a guitar and he's half decent, the Monday Club, which runs every week in the Cavern Pub. It's free to get in. And that is an open mic, really, but it's an open mic of just original music.
Yeah.
No covers welcome.
It's very supportive.
Yeah.
Like, it is a proper
it's
club.
a great night. And that is, it can literally be, my name's Josh from Walton and I've learned, I know 3 chords. Great, Josh, get up. There's your moment.
Let's have a go.
Get a picture, get a video.
But again, all this sort of stuff and all the work we do now because the front room, it pretty much looks after itself. It doesn't look after itself. That's. But it's it's the heritage, and we've got great artists there, and it's like that's solid. And the back room and the pub's a bit more eclectic. But this working with, again, Paul's saying about the Monday Night Club. That's an old friend of mine who runs that, Ian Prowse.
Yeah, I know him.
And it's all about. I think the whole business is about getting on with people,
of course,
and building up relationships.
Doesn't work without it, does it? It doesn't work.
It doesn't because I'd worked for Ian many years ago with his first band, Pele.
Right.
My best mate was the drummer in the band.
Were you doing hair and makeup?
No.
Oh right. I was going to say
no. I was driving and roadieing, but I used to stand in. I used to be an actor, and a mate of mine, John, was the main. He'd drive them and sell the merch, whatever. And whenever he couldn't do it, because again, in this industry, when you're starting off or anytime, you've got to diversify.
Yeah, totally.
So I'd find myself doing tour managing for bands, driving for bands. And that's how I met Ian. So we go back years.
Right.
And he used to literally live over the road from the Cavern. Opposite the Hard Days Nights Hotel. So I used to bump into him, occasionally go and have coffee with him, just chat. And then we wanted to do something different. So we asked him to do this original open mic night. And his first thing it was brilliant. He said, he thought about it and we were chatting. He said, I'll do it, but only if it's original music.
Great.
And I said, okay, that's great. But how about, so I've still got the cabaret head on,
Yeah.
Me and Paul often talk about this, we've done all the clubs.
And we should talk about that. Yeah, we should get into that.
I think you've got to do everything to get to where
I completely agree.
And I'm quite a commercial. I am at the end of the day, quite commercial,
You're 10, aren't you?
I'm an old 10. But I'm saying to Ian, I said, well, what about maybe interesting, quirky covers? And he kept on. I said, by the end of the meeting, I thought we'd agreed on interesting, quirky covers. And of course, when the first promo went out there, it was like the first no covers.
No covers, originals only.
We spoke about this on our own podcast because we had him on as a guest because it was the birthday of the Monday Club. And he was right, and that's become a hugely important part of. It's also it's a part of the weekly thing, but it's also we do a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of media, a lot of interviews. We travel abroad a lot, and we're talking about the Cavern. And it's importantly, as much as a lot of people might just want to talk about the 2.5 years the Beatles were there, which is hugely huge. None of us are here.
Yeah.
It's more important that we talk about what the Cavern is today.
Of course.
And the Monday Club, the Dave Monk's nights.
Its evolution.
The regular nights we do with promoters, the stuff we do, which we'll get onto, but with local Liverpool promoters. That's as important for us to talk about that than
reminiscing back in the day and
it's
talking
great,
about the Beatles.
And that's why hopefully the venues, it's all things to all people really. Definitely, you don't have to be a Beatle fan to go to Cavern.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so cool that it's rare. I find that you talk to venues in general, and they're so active in promoting all the stuff because you've got festivals going, you got BBC Introducing, you got Originals Nights, the heritage of the Beatles, you got a restaurant, you got so many things happening in the place. So it's an amazing venture to just even for our pub, our club, to just have we do this and Originals Nights. Even that would be like great, but yeah.
We touched on this a little bit before, didn't we, in conversation, but this will probably come back as a final thought or whatever in terms of the success of the business or any business for that matter. And it is finding the right people for the right jobs.
Yeah.
That might not be a first time find, but eventually, hopefully you'll find people within whatever industry that you're working in for the right jobs.
How did you do that for the Cavern? How did you?
Well, John's just touching on, for example, Ian there running the original nights. That's because he's absolutely passionate and still is. I think his passion grows on a weekly basis for original music, for finding original artists, not just finding them, for nurturing them, for offering advice, for trying to do anything he can do, passing on his years of being a signed artist, touring the world, songwriting, recording, royalty advice, whatever it may be. That's his passion in life.
Yeah.
Well, I think footy and original music.
Not even Liverpool.
Not even Liverpool.
Liverpool's Tranmere.
That's why he's so passionate about the music. I think it is. But when you find somebody like that, and then you give them the job of, okay, well, you run an original music night. It just works. We basically just go hands off.
It's a trust then. It's a trust and it's a partnership. It's relationships. It's all that thing about like, well, yeah, he's one of us. He'll get it. We can, and that's why we can do as many different things as we do. It's like, it's the original music. It's a funny one with the Cavern. I'll get onto this one because Paul touched on it. I get the emails about the band's gig and stuff.
Right,
I always say 150 emails a week. It might be more, might be less. I don't know. And they come in different forms. They might be new artists just starting out. They might be established artists. They might be.
You're going on a rant, I know what your rant's.
No, I'm not going to go on a rant. It's quite. You can't deal with 150. You can't go yes to everybody.
Of course not.
But I'll say this: when you get a band, when you get an email off a new band starting off, and there's a couple of lines, and they call you man. Maybe, which I don't mind,
Sorry, can I to this point? This is a good point for like a mark if this goes down. Like when you're in school and they're teaching you how to write like a cover letter for a CV or something like that, right? This is like John's top tips on how to not get a gig at the Cavern, or equally how to get a gig at the Cavern.
Yeah, so it really is. So I mean, if I get an email off through the website, and it's like, "Hi man, we're this fucking great band from Sheffield. We're really knocking it out. Just find us on Facebook. Can't wait. Got to play your place. Find us on Facebook.
Yeah,
right. That's the fair.
You do the work for me.
Yeah. Don't send me your press kit or don't send me. You find us. Check us out on this. That's delete.
Yeah,
followed by my do better. But. It sounds flippant.
No, I understand.
And equally, unfortunately, a lot of the band requests to play, there's not a fit. And I think as a venue, you realise over the years what's going to fit, what's going to sell, and we have different ways of doing things. Sometimes we'll do it on a percentage split. Other times it's a venue hire.
Yeah.
And when it's a venue hire, it's usually because they've asked for a venue hire, which is great.
Yeah.
Or it's something I'm saying, well, this isn't a natural fit for the Cavern. However, we're very eclectic. But as long as you can do your promotion and you can reach your audience, great. Because I understand
and
you want to play the Cavern.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of consideration.
What are the things that what would constitute a thing that you would open an email and go, brilliant, I'll take that. That sounds great.
It can be something as.
Do you remember the one the other day you read out?
Do you remember the details?
I can't remember the details.
It's when you open an email and you're opening and laughing in the office, and I turn around to Paul and go, "This is fucking great, this one," and they've basically told you how they're the dog's bollocks.
Yeah,
but they've done it in such a way that makes you laugh, and it's quite outrageous. But it's made you laugh, and if it makes you laugh, I'm going to click on the link. Unless they're asking me to look for Facebook, in which case it's like no, do better. And then you click on it, and you think, well, okay, I'm actually going to take this a little bit further and share it with the others. And occasionally, some of these bands have ended up getting a gig or whatever.
Right.
Or I'll forward them on to someone.
Interesting.
But you've got to.
Find a creative way to get. That's literally get
noticed.
your digital foot in the door.
Yeah, but it's also however you do it. But it's hard as well, isn't it? I mean, my lads just finished 2 years at Liverpool sixth form, and one of the most important parts of that course was a great guy called Brian. Used to be in I can't remember the name of it. He'd kill me. The name of his band, a big band, Clinic.
Right.
And he teaches the business side of the business, and there's a clue why it's called the music business beyond. You know, it's not hard, is it? But my son found that probably the most important part, because he'd been gigging since he was like 13, 14.
Yeah.
Learned a lot on that side, but it was the business side of things and how to get noticed. And yeah, you know, you send in your press kit and all the links.
Your demos.
It's great, yeah. You've just got to package yourself right.
That's it.
And you also, but you've also got to look at which venue you're sending it
completely.
to. And you know, you don't want to be too formal if you send it to us. You want a little bit of an edge on it.
Yeah,
At the same time, you don't want to be
cocky
and like kids, check us out. We're the biggest things, and you know, it's not going to work either. So it's a fine line. But hopefully there's a fit, and if things don't fit that time, the best is when I love this one, when a band's obviously sending out like a copy and paste to like every venue,
right?
And then somewhere in the body of the email, you know, they're referring to the wrong venue.
Yeah, the Casimir.
That's the classics. Like, okay, ta-ra. But it's a collective. There's so many different ways to play the Cavern. We do a festival every year with American guy called David Bash, who does it's not the greatest title. It's the International Pop Overthrow Festival.
Right.
The IPO festival, and he's been doing it for nearly 20 years next year. Remember that, because we had him as a guest this year on our podcast, and we said, 20 years, we've got to do something special. We'll have to make that up. You'll be expecting balloons. But 20 years ago, this was like, again, capital of culture. Liverpool,
of course.
Very, very different.
So making it work then is so much different.
Yeah, but what he did, I mean, this is a festival he's been running for 25 years, I think, in America and Canada. And it's 60s inspired music, but it's melodic pop. There's certain bands, you know, certain genres. He's quite specific about what he does. And it's a mixture of professional musicians and maybe semi-professional musicians, but he tours all around America. And 15 years ago, through a mutual contact, he was given the chance to bring the festival to Liverpool,
right,
which was bringing all these American artists. Again, it's the dream to play the Cavern.
Of course.
And that's the pull, you know, that's the pull.
And a lot of Americans do see it that way. You know, Liverpool, this iconic, and the Cavern. Yeah.
So it's not hard for him to get the bands, and then all bands from all over Europe and the UK play this festival. And the point is, 20 years ago, that was a massive uplift for the Cavern in terms of business.
Right.
And we do it on a bank holiday, May week, half term, and we'd see a real uplift.
Right.
As the years have changed and our business have changed and the scales have changed, it's less of a upturn in terms of business, but it's still, more importantly, a huge part of again, what we do,
what you're trying to achieve, and the direction you're going.
It's a week long, isn't it? It's a week long of again original music in the Cavern.
Three stages, including the pub. It's actually gone to 8 days a week, which is a terrible cliche. But that's only because we've
had to get it in there.
I know, it's a terrible one. I hate that. But it is actually 8 days. It goes from Sunday to Sunday now, because we had to take some of the front room stage back, because people's expectations. There's another thing. We never close the Cavern except for like Christmas Day,
right?
And we'll never hire out the front unless it's for some
event or something. Yeah.
Because we've got this thing that the Cavern is a place of musical pilgrimage, whatever whatever way you look at it. And you don't want someone coming from Mexico, from Canada, from wherever. It doesn't matter where. It could be Cleethorpes.
Who's the fella from Mexico you always use in this example?
I was trying not to.
It's Carlos or someone.
Carlos from Mexico. I was deliberately.
No, you always have a name. Yeah.
I've been on holiday. I've come back all refreshed. I don't want to fall into cliches. But no, it's true. You don't want Carlos from Mexico. He's a lovely guy, by the way. Coming over for it is my dream to come to the Cavern, and he's got 3 hours in Liverpool, and he rocks up at the Cavern, and it's closed due to a private event.
Of course,
We just don't do it.
Yeah.
And we hate doing it. We don't do it. But over the years with IPO, with this festival, we've had to tweak it because people's expectations, a lot of people are going for the Beatle Cavern experience. And so walking into, this is the other thing, as much as we love the original music, you've still got to be able to give that. So the scales have changed over the last 3, 4, 5 years. But it's still like 8 days a week, cliche, of original music alongside, our daily offering.
Yeah,
and that is also somewhere else where if I get certain emails that I think, that could fit, I can then signpost them
and
to
point
David.
them to, of course.
Say, well, it doesn't really fit, but it could fit for this. We do this festival once a year.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's like socials numbers and things like social media and all that stuff? Does that play any part in the way you look for things, or does it not matter, or is it a really big deal? This artist has 10,000 followers and he has 3. What does
I think it probably does when with the promoters that when we're doing outside promotions, it does.
Yeah.
But if we get all sorts of weird and wonderful emails of like some random person who you've never heard of, we'll get a phone call or an email saying this person's in town today. Could they get up and do one song? And you're thinking, well, who is it? And then Jay, who does our socials, will have a quick look and go, he's got
the modern world, isn't it?
He's got 9 million followers.
9 million followers, isn't it?
An influencer and all that stuff. Yeah.
And then you go, okay, well,
we're a little bit still more old school on that, aren't we? I don't think we overly look at socials for that side of stuff.
Right.
Jay does all like our digital stuff. Yeah, he obviously sees the benefit of that. But at the end of the day, even the biggest artist in the world, McCartney played.
Yeah.
Couple of years back, you can only fit 300 people in the room.
Yeah, it does. So it doesn't matter almost. Yeah.
But it does feed into it. I mean, you probably won't even know this. It's like I'll talk about this because it's hugely important. We've been working with the guys from Jacaranda and Phase One Records the last 18 months, and it goes back to pre-COVID. I had a meeting with Vesso, who was the promoter there, great guy. And he had this, they were doing all the in-store album launches, buy a ticket for the little intimate gig, 50 people with an album, and it helps album sales. It's, might not sound a lot, but it's, the way the industry's gone now, it's, if you do a few of them, it's good. And he said, we were talking about doing stuff, bringing Jacaranda into Beatleweek, which it has done. It's always, every so often it depends who's running it. It's been like a fringe stage.
Yeah.
So this is like 3 years ago, whatever it was. He said, I've got an idea. He said that when we do these in-stores, because he said, I'm keen to maybe build up on the Cavern Jacaranda thing. And we're always a bit reluctant to do that because I'll be dead honest, there's so many people who want to ride our coattails.
Yeah.
And we're pretty good at going, well, no, sorry. Yeah. It's like you get a request from a Beatle band who you've never worked with, you've never booked.
Can we somehow be attached or associated with the Cavern?
Can we come and make a video on your front stage? No, you can't.
Yeah.
Because the minute you do that, we're endorsing you and we don't book you. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, he had the idea of, because of that Cavern Jacaranda Beatle link
relationship.
He said, I think I can land some bigger artists for these in-stores if I can say, well, the gig itself would be in the Cavern.
Mm.
So we kicked around ideas, and also we do the Cavern Wall of Fame, the bricks.
Yeah.
And again, we don't give them out like confetti. And this is why I got onto this, because I always, if Vesso, for example, is bringing in a big band, first thing I do is have a look at how many million or not they're bringing in before I go, okay, and that feeds into a decision if they're going to get a brick or not.
Of course.
Because they might not be big in our world.
But they might be huge in Japan or something or whatever.
Just in a different genre. I mean, I'm 57, so as much as I try and keep in touch with what's going on.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, and you do, because there's younger people around you.
Yeah.
And you
remember when Andrea Kisser, was it?
Andre.
Is that his name?
Andre
right?
Kisser.
Yeah. Good name. Brazilian rock guitarist. So he came over through a friend of ours and, can you play the Cavern? It's one of them. Didn't mean anything to us.
Have you heard of the band Sepultura?
Yeah, of course.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, have I just ruined your punchline?
Right. Okay.
Moving on. No, but the prime example at the time, most of us were like, we don't know this guy or whatever. And then he... exact reason why you get the brick in the wall.
Wow.
Yeah,
because it was Sepultura.
Playing in another country, or, to a lot of, obviously, rock fans, but especially in his home country. It was massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Chinese...
again, I hate the C word, the COVID word now, but pre-COVID, a lot of the Chinese, we're getting a lot more Chinese visitors to Liverpool, and that was building. And it was through the same people. It was like a year apart. We got like XUI, I can't, yeah,
I remember.
Can this artist play? And we were like, I'm like, of course, in China, off the scale.
Right.
And the same happened a year later with a female artist. And again, it was like, we'll do that, and we'll do the gig. We'll put the gig on, and we'll put a brick in the wall.
Wow.
Because
but that is one of them where the socials kick in, where we go, we don't know this person is. You do a quick Google, you're like, okay, right. But somewhere this person's
and the Cavern is an international brand.
Yeah, of course.
We've been a lot more savvy at that, but it's
important to be that way though in today's
you've got to be open
industry. Because I mean, I would say, second to what you were saying before about people who send you EPKs or things like that, to judge the tone of the email, to judge the tone of what I would say, it's not just true of venues, it's true of like management and agents and other artists. You've got to be able to guess it right. But the second thing is also the socials game. It's like some people are turned on or put off by what you're doing on social media, and it's so important.
It is. I going back about 10 years ago, maybe, we started managing as the Cavern, a Liverpool band, and they're a great band. And there was one song they did in particular, and it's still probably in my top 5 songs ever. And it was that one song, we were at this thing with them, and it was like, we've got to try and help them. And it was like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we have got some contacts, and we'll try and help them. And then it'd be a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours who is in the business, who could be that link to get him in front of people. I'm going back. It's over 10 years now. It's pretty much even 10 years ago we were told we can't really put the band in front of this company or that company until they've got their fan base. And that was 10, 11 years ago, which now is on a different level completely. It's like you've got to do all the work.
It's non-negotiable now. It's like
exactly.
It's completely. I mean, I have this conversation with artists all the time where the artists have got. I mean, we were chatting about it where where it's the artists have got to do everything before they even enter a chat with like a label or something like that.
I do remember that, and I remember saying to the band, look, and this is like Instagram wasn't even
a thing.
Twitter wasn't a thing, so it was like
MySpace,
and the new thing, Facebook, and it was like you've got to connect and try and build up that side of things. And I'm in the Hard Days Nights hotel having a coffee with them, saying, and the lead singer, who I love dearly, he said, yeah, John, he said, but I hear what you're saying, but to be honest, all I want to do is write boss tunes, lad. And
that's all everyone wants.
All I want to do is write boss tunes, lad. And I was saying, I get it.
Yeah, completely.
I get it. And in the old days, you'd be writing those boss tunes,
and that would have been enough.
And a manager or a mate who fancied himself as a manager, or whoever, whatever that link was, would go back to the Beatles.
Yeah.
Epstein.
Yeah.
Who you find someone who's going to support you, or a promoter who's going to then hopefully help you get. But now, no, you've got to be the fully formed,
the almost the finished article before we even get into it.
We were talking about this the other week, weren't we?
Yeah.
Ben's obviously a highly accomplished guitar player, but you were saying your advice you'd give in a way would be, don't worry about learning all those 500 chords, mate. Just learn 3. Get a dead simple song. Get on YouTube. Get your likes up, and all that can follow. But
and just
that's
crack
the way
on.
in.
How sad's that? Do you find that sad, or you? And this is interesting. Is this more you because you're in that, you get it more, and you just.
I find no, I can't be sad about it, because I just think it's the whole industry is always in a state of evolution. It was different in the 50s that it was in the 60s to the 70s, 80s, 90s, and here we are now, and here we are, and everybody's saying TikTok's this most important thing, whatever. But I can't help but feel it'll be something else. And then I think we talking about, at some point, it all comes back to the live scene anyway. Can you actually just pick up a guitar and play the song? And so I kind of feel like if you're an A&R guy or something in a label, your metric to be able to understand whether something was a safe bet, to sign it or something, would have been, I need to go to the venues, I need to go and see their fan base, I need to go and see how many people they've brought, and is it their mom and their dad, or is it genuine fans? now that's kind of been taken away, and it's much simpler for them. They can just go, what's the engagement like on TikTok?
What are they
and actually,
connecting
it's
with?
genuinely, because you can't really fake that stuff. You can buy, there's bots. You can buy likes and comments and things like that. But there's ways that you can tell, and you can even, not even complicated ways. You can tell when someone's just bought 10,000 likes on a particular post, and then it's only their mom commenting or something. You can just see. So in some ways, I think it's kind of, it forces content creators, musicians and things to, okay, we've got to up our game, and we've got to provide we've got to provide more content for fans to engage with them, and we can't just be that dickhead band that just writes songs and forgets about them and whatever. And I quite like that.
I think so. I think that's it's got more sophisticated. Like the world's got more sophisticated. But inevitably, I think with that there'll be a lot of talent which will not
get drowned out because of it, and that's the sad side of it.
That's the flip side of it, isn't it?
I talk to a lot of artists who are that, they are that great thing that are totally undiscovered because of social media, definitely, and that is definitely the sort of the darker side of it. Not darker, just the kind of the unfortunate side of it, that if you're not very good at promoting yourself, then unfortunately, you often are just, well, I've written a great album, but no one hears it.
Yeah, let's be honest. We've all been at gigs with like younger, unsigned bands over the years, I'm sure, and there's been great bands in it. But there's one smart ass who's nailing all that cheese. And he's got the family there as well. But he's also got the social media following.
Totally.
He's got the merch, and you're thinking, I've never even heard of you.
Yeah.
And he's
how
annoying.
Did this happen?
Yeah.
We should talk about how, Paul, how you got into music and things, because obviously for people who are watching this, we've been friends since we were kids, and we like playing in the street and stuff. How did you get to meet John? How did you what we were talking about last time? Can you go down memory lane a bit and talk into it?
Absolutely.
How did you?
Well, it all comes back from primarily being interested in music from an early age.
Yeah.
That was very obvious to parents, anyone around. It was me, my one love. What nurtured it, as we were talking about the other day, so we were good friends in primary school, and Ben's dad was a great guitarist. He used to go around and play, and you were like a great guitarist at the age of like 1. Playing Tommy Emmanuel by 2 or whatever.
He was one of those annoying kids I was just talking about.
Sorry.
We played out. I was always interested. Oh, what's that guitar? So I was always about 20 steps behind you, but got to the point where learned a few chords, probably about maybe 5 or 6. Probably got a couple of chords, and then the journey just started from there on out. So early age, I was always playing piano, guitar, instruments. Loving all that. Never really had like overly pushy parents or anything like that into the business. No one in the family's musical whatsoever, but they were always just supportive parents of whatever you want to do. You've got our backing.
Yeah,
that's a massive one in my life. That is that you don't realise till you get a bit older how important.
Yeah, just having people around
just
you.
Having someone, if you fall or you support or whatever you need.
Yeah.
Your dad driving a van at 2 a.m. to pick you up from Devon for a gig or whatever.
Yeah.
Anything like that. They're all they're little building blocks, but you realise they're actually huge in the bigger scheme of things. Yeah. So I guess you could say a good family foundation and a love for music. So that starts. I go into school like anybody, start picking up anyone who do we know who plays drums? He plays drums. Great. Who plays? Right, let's form a little school band. That happens. You get you click a little bit with that. Now, interestingly, this is where the Beatles first comes into my life, which is obviously going to be a backdrop throughout my whole life and career. So when we're in secondary school, we form a little band, and it was, all right, what songs do you want to play, lads? And someone was like, oh, I know I saw her standing there, or I know She Loves You. And at the time, I didn't even know She Loves You. My dad had like Wings. So the only thing I remember looking really, we never really played Beatles music. And the one we did have was like Paul McCartney Wings. It was a bit more 70s rock and stuff. So I knew all that stuff before I got into the Beatles. And then I had a mate of mine who was well into them. So he was like, even he was the singer, so he was like, oh, let's do this song, that song, this song. So we started learning a couple of Beatles songs, maybe only about 4 songs. And then weirdly, we started doing a gig. We got booked to do a gig. It was a gay wedding. It was a gay wedding in Kirby, and the band got 50 quid. And
50 quid?
50 quid.
Danger money.
Yeah. That was hush money. Yeah, it was 50 quid. And the guy was specifically like, we love the Beatles. Can you do a Beatles show? I'm like, all right, well, we reckon we can put together like 15 songs or whatever. He's like, oh no, but I want like,
You
know,
went for
the wigs
50
and the
quid,
suits.
wouldn't
Yeah. Well, yeah. So anyway, we put together the songs, we bought some crappy joke shop wigs or whatever, and we went and did this gig. And it was like the first paid gig we ever did. And we left and we were like, We've done a thing there.
That was great.
Yeah, we've done a gig. No one's complained. People were dancing.
No one's complained.
And we got paid. Get in. And then that starts the appetite for it. And then weirdly, about 2 years after that, I was 15, and I don't know how we ended up going on Stars and Rise Kids.
Yeah,
because
of course,
we were like, we was a Beatles band, and it was like, well, what can we do? Again, you look back and you think it was the appetite of, well, we've got 50 quid there, so how do we get 60 quid? How do we get 70 quid? How can we try and grow this little thing that we've got going? And for whatever reason, somewhere along the line, it was decided, why don't we try and do Stars and Rise? It's filmed in Manchester, ITV. It's local, we could do it. So we applied, a little video of ourselves. You know, my dad took the video on a camera, wigged up, doing our thing. Long story short, got into the show, went on it and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, at that age, 15,
it's massive.
16, it's huge.
Massive, yeah.
So locally where we're from, it was like, you know, the talk of the town, everything, you know, suddenly got all the attention.
In the Ormskirk Times?
I think you were. I actually think you were.
It's the Ormskirk champion, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
But all of that pretty much kicked off, and it was going back then. It was, you know, mini fame for a snap second, but it was enough to get the appetite of going, all right, we're on TV, you know. Girls are talking to us now who used to walk past us every day. Everything's happening. We're getting more
stroking
gigs.
your wig. Just
we're now on £100 a gig.
Wearing the wigs for school, though, wasn't it?
It was a bit much. But the film crew came to the school and all that to, you know, do the pre-roll stuff when we were going on. So the whole school were going mad, and they were literally at that St. Bede's school, at the whole school in the playground, like as they're filming it and all that.
That's so cool.
So you kind of become a little mini fame superstars.
Yeah.
But again, that was through the Beatles music, really, using that as a way in. I go back to a foot in the door.
Yeah.
That was my foot in the door that got me into something of somethingness. So that happened, the TV thing happened. And then on the roll of all that, me and one of the other guys in the band, Andy Brown, decided to try and go a little bit more, you know, leave that. And we were writing at the time, and about 18, we were trying to write some stuff. And then we went on, X Factor just came out. It was the very first season. And we seen an advert somewhere, you know, have you got talent, new TV show? And we were like, well, we just did season 2 years ago.
Let's try this.
You know, we're old now, we're grown-ups, you know, we're 17, so let's try that, let's strike while the iron's hot. So we did, we went on that on the very first season, obviously didn't really know what, you know, sort of shit show it would become. It was new, say it was the first season, but yeah, we did it, we went on again, doing the TV, meeting Shannon Osbourne and all these people, Simon Cowell, and you're kind of thinking the momentum's building from an early stage there. And then we got kicked off by Louis Welsh. So that abruptly ended that one.
I like him, Simon. I like him.
No, our duo was called The Fade at the time on the thing. And when we were in the thing, you know, you're standing there waiting for all the music's going. It's like, have you got through? And he was just like, John knows I can't really do accents, but he's like...
Oh, I love your accents.
I know, I'll try, but we might have to edit this one. He was like, you're grand, lads, but the thing is, you're faded. You're gone. And we're like, it's just hit us with the you faded line.
You faded.
So that was the end of those dreams. So then it was quickly back to reality. So then I go to university, which was LIPA here in Liverpool. For anyone who doesn't know, LIPA was Paul McCartney and George Harrison's high school that Paul saved when it was about to close, and he made it into this world-class performing arts university for anyone interested in, well, the performing arts world, really. It covers the broad spectrum of everything. I went in at that point for sound engineering because I'd learned guitar. You know, I was singing, I was in the bands, I was playing, I'd kind of done that bit. But what I was really interested in was recording it. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm going out gigging. How can I make the band sound better when we're doing a gig? You know, I want to record a song, I don't know how. How can I do that? I tried doing it, it sounds shite. So how do I make it sound like something on the radio? Yeah. You know? I was more intrigued that way, about the tech side of stuff. So I went on for sound engineering. Obviously, you went there as well. Yeah, of course. And I had the best 3 years of my life there. And I remember, because when you're doing the techie thing as well, it's quite hard to find techie people, especially in school. Most people aren't techie. They'd rather be up on stage singing and dancing. Yeah. You know, all that showbiz.
Tits and teeth, darling.
Give me the spotlight. Yeah. You know, it's a lesser few people that you'll find who'll go, I'm all right being behind the scenes, and I'm intrigued how this all ticks over. So when I went there, I was like, oh my God, there is other people like me. And
They
I had a whole
exist.
classmate of
Yeah.
people who were interested about
Whole class of-
techie gear.
whole class of geeks.
Yeah, a whole class of geeks. I loved it. So I had a great 3 years doing that. And then I left. And then I thought to myself, right, I'm going into the sound industry, be it live sound, production, studio work. And that's where my head was at. And I was totally in love with it. And I got a phone call that was like, oh, you're still doing your Beatle thing? And I was like, oh, not really. Sort of, I haven't done it for a while. And he said, oh, well, it's a cruise ship gig that's going on. So I was 21, left uni, had a student loan, skint. And it was like, oh, give you 800 quid for the week if you go just do a couple of cruise ship around the UK or whatever. I was like, oh, I'm skint. I've still got my wig over there, like, so.
Yeah.
I'll do it again. And it's one of them. It just happens, and then the momentum builds, and before you know it, years have passed. So I ended up doing about 5-6 years of basically just going around the world.
That is amazing, yeah.
Again, through Beatles music, unintentional, but that was the band. And, it was a good, I was a bit older. The lads that were getting brought in were like really good players and stuff. So it was a really good show.
Good show, yeah.
And I was with two of my best mates as well at the time. So we were just a band, travelling the world,
having a laugh.
Yeah. Getting paid. So I loved that till about 25. And then I was kind of like, I need to get off the water. I need dry land. So I was looking for a job. Or I wasn't looking for a job. I was looking to try and get home for something. And then I got a phone call to say there was the Cavern were about to put, and I'd been playing the Cavern like all my life since about 15. I had about 2 years where it was regular, and then it went for a while, so it was just bits and pieces. But it's always sort of been there as a venue that I knew and gigged and stuff. And they rang to say the Cavern were, again, this goes back to what John was saying about over the last, you've been 14 years here? 15 years?
15 years, yeah.
So over that time, John was here. Obviously, he was already in working about trying to change things and make things better.
We never even used to have it's ridiculous now. I'll come in because it's relevant to where you're going. 2009, we'd still have like random gigs on a Friday and Saturday in the back room.
Right.
Now it's like, it's the Cavern Club Beatles sold out. It's logical now, and it's not rocket science that if someone's coming into the city on a Friday and Saturday, they might want to see a Beatles show.
Yeah, of course.
But again, this is building on capital of culture. That wasn't the case then. And I took over booking the back room, and I'd picked up a lot of stuff that was already going on, a lot of standing order gigs that were in there. Started fishing around, as I say, started to cut ties with other promoters, looked at other things, and started that we did a few more tribute band gigs because there was quite a healthy tribute band scene going on, but they weren't relevant really to the venue and the brand, but they did well. And I thought, well, we should try a monthly Beatle night. Right. Let's see if
Beatles music works in the Cavern.
The Beatles in the front is well established, and the Thursday night Beatle night was which Paul used to play when he was younger.
Right.
That's well established. It's not like the Beatles wasn't in the venue, but in terms of a ticketed standalone show in the back.
I see.
So let's do Beatles monthly. I play on that. And that's where, from that, it was like, well, okay, this is good. And then from that, and Bill would say that in all the years that he'd had the Cavern Club, up until that point, we'd never officially formed an official Cavern band. Right.
Interesting.
We'd had resident bands who'd been playing for many years, and there was a touring band, the Cavern Beatles, who we'd endorsed, but they weren't directing the Cavern. So from that was that time we were like, well, I think it's time we put a house band
together.
To do maybe every Saturday, every Thursday in the front, and use, for promo. We were starting to do more promo stuff, more corporate stuff, more going abroad to start promoting the brand. And that's where Paul came in. And two of the lads we'd been using were in a band called the Blue Meanies, brothers doing John and Paul. So from that, they had
a local following already. Right. So it's just sort of supplementing them and building it up.
Yeah, we took those two from that and said the Cavern Club Beatles. So we put out a call that we needed it had to be local. We wanted 4 lads from Liverpool. A George and a Ringo, and that's where Paul got the call.
Right,
so ironically, up until this time, you've been giving your best John, darling.
This is a bit of industry advice there for sure. So I was on the ships playing the role of John Lennon, in the band's touring, doing that. I'd always done John since day one. But yeah, or like rhythm guitar, bass. But yeah, I was always the John. And I got this call from my mate who was like, the Cavern are putting together this thing. The John and Paul have cast, you know, they've been chose. We're looking for a George and a Ringo. He was like, I reckon you could do the George. I was like, I've never done that bit in my life.
It,
you know,
right.
All the guitar parts and all that. I was like, I've never done it. Don't know it. He was like, no, I reckon you could do it. He was like, just tell him that you know all the stuff. So I was like, all right. It's like, I was in Alaska.
This was the call. Just blag it.
Yeah, there's definitely something in that in this industry. But it was in Alaska. I specifically remember the phone call going, all right, tell him I'll come down and audition. And I was like, I'd get off this ship in about 2 weeks and I'll come over or whatever. So this is like late 2011. So then I turn up at the Cavern. And you know, it's all, and it was actually a bit X Factor, like slightly nervous. I thought it'd be like, just be like a little conversation with someone, and you know, whatever. No, and it was suddenly the back room. All the lights were down. There was a big long like trestle table out. You know, there was water. There was a table. They were all sitting there like that with the water on. The like, you know, impress me. So I went on and I said to me,
anything for nothing, kid.
I said to me mate Tony, who was like the Paul McCartney guy. I said, all right, I've learned like 2 songs of George. Something in Here Comes the Sun. I went, I've learned them on the ship. I'll do those ones. So I did those 2 songs, you know, sang, did me bit. And then I remember somebody saying, it might have been Bill being like, oh, so, you know, you do George, do you? You play the parts? Like, yeah, of course I do, yeah. He's like, great, because we're looking at doing like possibly like a 3-hour show of stuff, or you know, there'll be loads of stuff in there. Do you do all that stuff? You know all the stuff? Yeah, know it all. You know, not a problem. Yeah, sound and know it all. I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, that's good to know. Came away. Anyway, finally got the job. Like the week after you got the part, and I was like, oh, okay, shit. Now I've got to start.
Like I've actually got to learn this now.
Do the stuff for the job. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bit of blagging. Bit of believe in yourself. You got to have a little bit
definitely.
Got to have a little bit of blagging.
Didn't you, just to cap that story off, didn't you actually have something where you got the call, you got the job, but then it was like, okay, first gig this Friday, learn 3 hours of George material. So it was like quick or something.
It was very soon after the job. So that, in a long nutshell story, that got me back into the Cavern really, and a bit more of a career really, a job.
It got you in the mix with us.
So I came back as a muso, really. That was my link with the Cavern.
And doing the band thing regularly.
And up to this point, ever since 15, all my link with the Cavern was just purely as a muso player. So I got in the band. As John said, it used to be a monthly thing, and then it went to twice a month when the ticket sales went well. And then it's now ends up, it's every Friday, every Saturday, and it's sold out every week, which is you know, brilliant in itself. So I just came back as a muso. And then there was maybe about 6 months in or something like that. Again, as John's saying, with things changing within the business, now I had no interest in the business. I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know anything about it.
Because you're in the band. I just turned up to your job and
got pissed and
have your pint. Yeah, no problem.
And then Bill, the owner, and Bill's history is he goes back as a teacher, and he's got a very astute level of getting people, I guess as teachers do, you know, he's a troublemaker him. He's all right, he's quiet, he's clever, he's that,
and awareness. Yeah,
he loves the attention, you know, whatever it is, he's got it. So he called me in one day, and he basically was just saying, you know, the people that were working in the Cavern were slightly older, and you know, at that point, this is 2012 now. It was kind of, it sounds silly, but it was like, you know, we're going to a lot more email-based things, you know.
Wow.
Facebook had started, social media just started kicking off, and it was that kind of, we could do with a little bit of young blood maybe in the office just to keep things ticking along. So he was like, what's your background? University? Oh, that's good to know. You fancy doing 1 day a week? I was like, yeah, fine. So I came in just on a really basic level of just helping some emails and bits and bobs, or Excel or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then it was 2 days a week, 3 days a week. Then it was a full-time job. And next minute I'm working for the business then, learning the ropes of everything and really being there at the time when a lot of things were changing.
It was the tech side of thing that got you in.
That was the interest, and that was my offer for the company. Yeah, people already there booking events.
Because you'd just done it in university. Is like, no, I do know about this stuff. I can offer that.
To me, it was amazing. I was thinking, you got this amazing venue, the Cavern, with no one really assigned to the tech side of maintaining the club and everything that's going on, or dealing with bands or tech stuff and all that kind of stuff. I was like, well, I can definitely help out with that.
That's absolutely what got you in. But then Paul's path's very similar to I got in through the music side, promoting, and I'd run venues and I'd produce shows. You bring all these skill sets into it, and then you come in on a certain level. Paul, probably after about 4 or 5 years, you were made an assistant director.
Yeah.
And you were still probably just touching 30.
Wow.
Which was a big call from our point of view. But it's also, you look at the age of the owners, the directors, and the irony is when they made me a director, I was. I think one of the younger level coming in there.
How old is that, John?
Oh God! but the point is, it's Paul brought in a speciality.
Yeah, of course.
Of the tech side of things, and also you touched on it before. But you when he was finally found his people when he was in his classroom full of geeks. That's not my thing. I mean, I was a director of the company. And booking all the stuff and all that, but you start talking anything technical, and I just glaze.
Yeah, right.
But I'm not interested in that detail.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's
that finding the right
combination
people for those right
jobs,
of course.
And collectively with all the different skill sets that people have and you bring in, we've pretty much got it covered. But that's
it is.
And then you blagged the rest, didn't you? Became a director.
Yeah.
You just continue to blag on a daily basis.
In terms of this podcast, in terms of hopefully trying to encourage people to pursue what path they in the ideal world, pursue what you love to do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you can do something in the music industry, or if it's not quite your headlining some massive festival somewhere, well, don't worry, just take a few steps under that. Yeah. And it's okay to be, a runner or a tech, whatever. As long as you're involved in that scene, things will happen of some level.
And going back to what the biggest thing, get on with people.
Yeah.
That's the biggest advice that you could ever give to anyone. Diversify, keep your options open, recognise, be open that you might recognise a little bit of an opportunity that could lead to something. It doesn't have to be viewed, you don't have to be too cynical about it and go, networking's a lovely thing, but professional networkers who are ruthless, it's not for me. But get on with people, keep your options open, and opportunities will come along. And I think we're both examples of that. That's
definitely. And I'd say I'm a total example of that myself as well.
And you've got to be.
I was just to say, because I was laughing going, the start of this journey for me was always muso. It was always, that's what I do. And not the irony of it now is, but that's the backseat bit for me. Yeah. Now it is being involved in business.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'd say is don't be worried about change or changing yourself. There is that ego bit where you're like, I want to be a superstar. That's all I want to do is just write songs. Just want to write songs, and then eventually, once you accept. The first time I started working at the Cavern in the offices, I remember Bill or John might have said to me, "Oh yeah, you're good at computers. We need some posters designing for this event. Can you do that?"
Was it after you made the coffee?
Might have been. Might have been. Yeah. And I was like, it sounds silly to say. I was like, I don't really know how to make a poster. I mean, I can use Word, but that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I can't say that because I've been given a job, and that's what I've been asked to do. So I was like, I went to Fort, it's next Friday, all right. So go home, go on YouTube.
Research everything.
Find, what's this? Photoshop. Right, I've never used that. I'll see, I've got a copy of that, got a blank copy off someone. Learned how to do something, come in the next week, deliver the poster. Now, admittedly, I look back now, it's probably a fucking terrible poster. But that has been everything. That's been what I've done since the Cavern. Yeah. I've been asked to do so many things that aren't in my, they're not naturally in your skill set.
Yeah.
But you, and John does, because there's only a few people running everything.
Yeah.
So yesterday, my working day yesterday was 10 o'clock in the morning. I had a photo shoot in the restaurant to try and promote, Christmas bookings and fun things for families to do and stuff like that. So we had a Santa in, who actually, ironically, is one of the musicians at the Cavern. He was great. He looks, got all the gear, big beard and everything. Great. So I was filming a video in the restaurant with chefs pouring flour over his head and everything. A funny doing Instagram reels and then taking pictures of him. Then going up to the office and doing some artwork for Beatleweek or leaflet design or posters.
Wasn't there a disciplinary in there as well?
There was there's a disciplinary, which is the last, not the nice bit of the business, but it's a bit of that in there. Then I would run to the club, and 1 till 3 I'd do an acoustic set, being an entertainer for all the tourists and everyone. And then come back and make the coffee. So you get these days where you go, I don't question now. We all wear multiple hats and we crash on.
It's funny. I mean, your Paul's official title is he's technical director. I'm events and music director.
Right,
and that's fine as a snapshot, but it doesn't tell the whole story.
Quite encapsulate what you actually do.
It's about business. It's developing the business. It's the going back to the Cavern as a brand. It's a huge international brand. We're probably going over to Sao Paulo at the end of November, beginning of December, because we're opening our first official Cavern in Brazil. Brazil's a huge market for the Cavern. South America is.
Wow. In terms of Beatles fans, isn't it?
In terms of Beatles fans. Huge. McCartney started it, really.
Right.
Because the Beatles obviously never went to Brazil. But McCartney famously went there in the early 90s, did these huge gigs, and that really ignited the whole Beatle thing.
Wow.
And we've, as a company, as the festival, as an ongoing thing, our connections with Brazil are just ridiculous. We've had guys representing us in Brazil, our reps over there. We've a lot of the Brazilian bands are fantastic as well. The ones that we've been bringing a festival for over 40 years, and they bring a certain energy to them, And a lot of festivals have started in all over the world, but a lot of them in Brazil from our festival.
Right.
Some of which that we loosely endorse. And support them and there's a synergy with the different bands and the people. So
right.
But we've there's been loads of dodgy little caverns over there as well.
Right.
This is the problem. About 15 or 12 years ago, we started trying to tidy up the brand. We never want to franchise it like McDonald's or Hard Rock, whatever. But there are a lot of licensing deals. Like we've got caverns on cruise ships now.
Yeah, of course.
NCL, and various other ones. So you try and tidy things up, but in a country like Brazil, where it's like
Wild West,
it is, and to try and do any business there. So I actually haven't even given you the updates. I got some video stuff through off Clever. So we've got our guys over there who are in Sao Paulo now, and it's due to open the first official Cavern in early December, and they're desperately trying to get it. This is the irony when I was saying about McCartney was the one who sparked this whole thing 30 years ago. McCartney is gigging doing about 6 dates in Brazil, and the first tail end of the 7th to the 10th of December, he's doing 3 huge arenas in Sao Paulo.
Right.
So they're trying to get the Cavern open in time for
that. Yeah. Wow, that'd be incredible.
Hopefully, if that's the case, Paul and I are going over there to open that.
That'd be incredible.
And we will blag tickets for McCartney as well.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, just before that, there's a festival in Niterói in Rio. So we may well end up doing that as well.
Wow. Just there where you mentioned McCartney again, worth bringing him into the mix of things, because he came back to the Cavern in 1999 when he had an album called Run Devil Run, and it was on the promo tour for that. And that gig, it got streamed, didn't it?
Yeah, it was one of the first
internet streaming.
Yeah, and it wasn't one of the first ones, but it broke.
Yeah,
even the numbers then were ridiculous.
Right. Well, it's bound.
And they had screens all around Liverpool to watch that live feed from.
It was McCartney's last gig of the millennium.
Wow,
which of course it was. So that was quite a key angle to it.
That gig, when he came back from there on afterwards, there was suddenly this new, say found love for the Cavern, found interest in the Cavern, really.
Wow.
It almost gave for all the doubters, because we could do a whole different podcast, which we did. We produced our own documentary a few years ago, the Cavern Club, The Beat Goes On, which tells the whole story, not just the Beatles, the whole story of the Cavern, and expels a lot of the myths about the Cavern, when the Cavern closed, why the Cavern closed, was the Cavern on the other side of the road, and all that. So when McCartney came back in '99, it expelled a lot of myths. It almost gave the Cavern, all the doubters who would say it's not the original Cavern, which we never say it's the original Cavern. Again, on another time, another conversation, we could go into the whole of that. I could bore you for hours on that. Trust me.
It gave the stamp of approval.
Yeah, it gave the stamp of approval, and almost gave the Cavern its history back again. The fact that, it's not the original Cavern, it's rebuilt on the original site. But this is McCartney coming back in 1999, and it was and that opened the floodgates really for other artists then going, okay, well,
validating it almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I see.
And we built on that, and we never thought he'd come back. He came back in 2018, which the ironies, I wasn't working with the Cavern in '99, but as I say, I'd known the guys who owned it since late '80s, early '90s, and performed there. And I was actually there as a guest for that gig,
right?
Which was very special. It wasn't a great gig, which is weird, because it was. He put a band together, and the band was fantastic. Dave Gilmour was the guitarist.
Ian on drums, Gilmour.
Ian Pace, So it was a great band, but it was a band that was put together just for this rock and roll project. It was a rock and roll gig.
Right.
So the gig itself wasn't like, it wasn't McCartney in there playing all Beatles songs, but it was history.
Yeah, of course.
2018 when he came back, which I never thought he'd ever come back. I didn't think there'd be any reason for him to come back, but we were sitting on that date for like 2 months. Vow of silence. Working behind the scenes on it. A lot of work. Paul and I and Bill had worked with Paul's people on that and kept it quiet, and a lot of planning. And that was a special gig.
I imagine,
because that was, and it was all came from Paul. All that it was just after he did the James Corden,
right? In the Philharmonic,
yeah. Karaoke stuff. So
that was incredible.
And it was Egypt Station was the album that he's promoting, and all of the promo stuff he wanted to do, the PR stuff around it. He did a big thing in Abbey Road. Mm-hmm. He did went back to his house, did the Philharmonic pub, and did the Cavern. And did something, and also Lipper as well.
Yeah,
they were all Paul's ideas, and he wanted to come back to the Cavern, and it was hugely nostalgic. And he was just so on form. He did 2 hours 10.
Wow,
straight.
A stadium,
not one sip of water.
It was like 5 songs less than a stadium arena set.
Wow.
And it was everything you'd want to see. It was all the greatest hits,
all the hits, and wow,
plus the new album stuff.
The best thing for me was in the sound check. Everything's ready. You've been there, for like the last day with the crew, getting everything ready. And McCartney just coolly walks in. You're thinking, this is just bizarre. What's McCartney doing in our shitty little club? And then he walks onto our shitty little stage. And I remember thinking to the sound check, thinking, this is just surreal.
Sorry, you've missed something else out there. He drove himself into the gig, drove underneath the Cavern, past the shitty little bins and the bottle bins, and it stinks and all that. He just walks himself in and is like,
so he comes in, next thing he's on stage, and he was doing, as he always does, songs in a sound check that he didn't, he did listen to what the man said, which is one of my favourite. And he didn't even do that in the set.
Wow, but he just...
there was so many highlights.
That was good, wasn't it?
Amazing gig. But it was a funny one. As much as you want him there, I personally, because I'd been in there since 3 o'clock the night before with the crew and the producer, getting stuff ready and just having a nightcap, and you're back there at 7, just getting this big day. And as much as it was amazing, you just want him to go.
Yeah, because you're like, this is pressure.
It's like
pressure,
a royal visit.
Yeah.
It really is. We could get into royal visits to the Cavern, but we've only ever had one royal visit, and it was the dodgy one. Anyway, so we won't get into Andy. So, but as much as you then it's like, okay, I want him to leave now, and then you can relax.
Yeah.
But Paul said he arrived in his car, and I'm in the car park with Barry, who's his long-time producer.
Yeah.
And people said, "Oh, did you? So you must have been great hanging out with McCartney." Because people think it's the Cavern. So McCartney's playing, we're going to be in the dressing room hanging out. No, there's none of that. It's business.
Yeah,
and we had access all areas, but we're not hanging.
You're not hanging.
No, we're not catching up. We're chatting to him. But when he came out, he saw me with Barry, and this is the closest. I've got a great story about that day if you want it, but. When he came out, he sort of looked at me because I was right next to Barry, and he just said, he said, "Thank you," just like that, very subtle. I just said, "Oh, thank you." He said, "No, thank you," and that was it. And I thought, that's it. I don't need.
That's all I need. That's all I need. Yeah.
What are you actually going to talk about? But I nearly did introduce him on stage that day.
Right. Wow.
Which I will tell you. You can cut this out if it goes on too long, but I will tell you because it's great. And it also was so annoying, not because it didn't, but basically they'd given away the tickets on the day. They'd announced it 8 o'clock in the morning that they were going to be given away at 9 o'clock from the arena. And there was about 100 tickets they were giving away. The rest were invited guests. And everyone who was picking tickets up were told, please there's no cameras. You know, if you bring your camera out to film anything, you'll be asked to leave, because he'd got a full crew on it to film it
properly. Yeah,
which was a last minute decision. Originally, it was just going to be quite low key, and he thought, I think he was thinking, you know, this is history. I want to capture, and it was out a couple of years later on BBC. So just before the gig's about to happen, and we're opening the doors, Barry says to me and Bill, he said, I'm paranoid about these cameras. He said, I almost need someone to go on stage just before Paul, just to welcome everyone and to reiterate. He said, John, would you do that? I said, of course I would. Because that's what I do. I do a lot of presenting for shows, whatever. I said, yeah. No. And so I'm going, yeah, that's fine. I'm thinking, shit, I'm as good as this, is as close as being Bob Wooler introducing the Beatles as ever. So they all start coming in, and I'm waiting for the nod, and I knew I had it nailed. I wasn't going to say at the end of it, now, ladies and gents, put your hands together, local lad.
Yeah.
Welcome, you know. I just thought, you know, welcome everyone. Just reiterating, it's a history. You know, this is history. It's getting filmed. There's 10 cameras. You might have noticed there's all there. So please, you have been asked. No one wants to be asked to leave this. So, well, very cool. Anyway, enjoy the show. And then I was going to exit right. And Paul comes on and stays left. So it's all there, and I'm thinking, this is great, and it'll really, and you know what, I knew it'd really piss off Neil B. He was one of our guys who, like, he would have loved that. And so lights go down, music stops, and I'm about to get the nod from Barry to go on and do this. McCartney just walks on, because he didn't get the memo, obviously.
Oh, no.
McCartney, the cheeky bastard. He walks on of his own accord, and then they crack on. And the first song was a little jam. And then the first song officially was 20 Flight Rock, the song that got him into the Beatles. And of course, within 4 bars, the phones are out and all that. And I'm seeing this, and McCartney stops the gig. I was mortified. I was fuming.
Because you failed your job.
Yeah. And he stopped the gig and said, can I just say, you know, you were asked, you know, all this phone, it's just not cool. And it was really good the way he did it, and it was really, you know, I just want to, you know, enjoy this, and, you know, there are cameras.
Can you get rid of the fans?
And everyone's like that and all that. But it was embarrassing as a venue, you know what I mean? And then they cracked on with the gig, and the gig was amazing. And that was the day I almost introduced Paul McCartney on stage.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was fuming because I thought if I'd done that, it wouldn't have happened.
That's amazing.
Because it was embarrassing for us, I thought, as a venue.
Yeah.
So...
Guys, I think we've run out of time, but thank you so much for coming in. I really, really appreciate it. There's so much there that's like, you know, the history of the Cavern, and, you know, just how you get into, you know, music and, you know, all that stuff. Very best of luck with everything that you're doing. It's like a monster operation.
It's nothing.
Thanks again. I really, really appreciate it.